this November 13th. Today, I wanted to discuss a book, The Four Agreements, I think everybody should read. Uh, if you haven't read it and want a copy of it, I'll drop my email in this description. Christmas is coming up. Let me know. I'll hook you up. The main one I want to talk about was Don't Make Assumptions, which is literally talking about communication with others. As you can read down there, find the courage to ask questions and to express yourself so that you don't have misunderstandings with people. But I think it can also be broadened out to expectations, right? And taking a more of a stoic philosophy of watching without uh, serious emotional expectations of things. We just had this big election. A lot of people had ridiculous expectations and still have ridiculous expectations. They had expectations of how the result was going to come out. Now they can't deal with the result, or they have absurd expectations of what's going to happen after this, what the byproduct of these elections is going to be, and that sort of thing. Bitcoin just shot up to, at the time of this recording, it's almost $92,000. It was at like $58,000 a month ago. uh, what we're doing here in the stock market is all hoping everything stays up, but we can't expect everything to keep going up. Everybody's been saying that the stock market is way overpriced right now anyway, that it's super inflated, and that at some point there's going to be a correction and a crash, which is another expectation. I guess what I'm trying to say is to keep the peace of, you can have hopes, but keep everything at a balance, right? I hope this goes, but also keep in mind, but if it doesn't, here's the way forward, and see both sides of everything. Not putting all your eggs in one basket, not making assumptions. The old adage, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, is a cliche for a reason, because it stood the test of time. So, that being said, once again, I'll put the email in the description there for this page. And even if I don't know you, if you reach out to me by Christmas time, I'll ship you one. I don't care. Um, okay, so let's get on with our actual investments here. Um, the prices came out for the weeklies. Y Max is going to pay 15 cents, Y Mag 21 cents. You can read this. RDTE, some people don't like it. I like this. This is on the Russell 2000, and XDTE is on the S&P 500. So they're opposing stock um, indexes. So I like that. The QDTE is on the S&P. I mean what am I trying to say? The Nasdaq 100. And so it's going to have some overlap with the S&P 500, right? The 100's probably in the 500. It's just a narrower index on those. So if we have both of those, you actually have a lot more diversity of companies. The S&P 500 is large cap companies, and the Russell 2000 is all small cap companies. So I like that being a little bit of a diversity, having both of them, and they're both doing pretty well. They're paying decent and holding their values. Um, the YMAG is still doing well, but back to our expectations. I mean, as soon as the election was over, everything skyrocketed. So everything's pretty inflated right now, even more so than it already was. So it's kind of hard to tell what's actually doing well, or and what's just coattailing on the entire market doing well. That being said, though, I mean, the YMAX is like everything they have, and I think that some of the dogs in the basket are dragging it down. But the YMAG is at least the Magnificent Seven, which is named that for a reason, right? It's the big players right now. So that's what I'm going with, YMAG, and then the QDTE and I mean the XDTE and the RDTE as the only weeklies I'm really playing in. I think I wound up getting stuck in one of these in another account, but it wasn't on purpose. And then this week in Yield Max is our Group C's. You can see the payments out on them. Since Bitcoin just skyrocketed, it's banging on almost $92,000 at the time of this recording, and it was only 58,000 like a month and a half ago. So anything Bitcoin related is going to do well. Coney is going to pay out $2 this week, which we have Coney and Fiat in our test account, and we also have Misty. So hopefully our test account has been dragging because I messed up and reinvested dividends. Should actually pay half decent these next 2 weeks, and maybe that'll get us started in on something going forward where we don't have to wait weeks and weeks to see what happens with that. Alti is one that I've been hoping is going to hold on. It seems to be doing better now. It was under $10 early at the end of last week. So, but at the same time, hard to say if it's holding on because the management strategy has changed or because the entire market is doing well. Part of Alti was I think it's called DTJ. It's Donald Trump Investments, or Donald Trump's corporation, right? Was in there, and they were like, "What is this about?" But when he won the election, his stock went up immensely. So, that could be the entire portfolio just coming up and holding it up. But I'm still hopeful for it. I'm going to hang into it for a little while. And then next week we'll get Group D's to see what the other. I'm interested to see what Missy's going to pay. It's not going to pay $4, I wouldn't think, because that was like a 6-week dividend. But it might be 3. I don't know. I've been using $2 in my testing just because it seemed a safe guess, but I would be interested in to see what it's going to do. What else? I've been doing a little testing in. Let me get out of this one. In the dingbat here. This is the main schedule, and this is how I broke it out to test with at first, which is. I've got a different. You don't have to memorize that. This is the actual how I laid out, the order of purchase for these things. But let me show you what I did with it. So I started with a $100,000 influx. I don't know why I changed just that one. One sec. Sorry about that. 20. So I'd started this with the $20,000. I mean, $100,000, but I broke it out into the 5 separate loops and just putting $20,000 in each loop and seeing how it went. And you can see in 6 months it was up about $1,300. So then I started playing with different things. I put $100,000. Did I leave this? Yes, at $100,000 in Alti to start with a target value of that stock holding at $100,000, right? So I didn't want to put any reinvestment in Alti. I wanted to just sit there. And of course, this is a guess at the, well, this dividend's actually updated because it's today. But like the Misty is just a guess, and I used $2 at it. But holding the value of $100,000 at Alti and then reinvesting all of its dividends into Misty gave us about $2,200 in 6 months. Now, again, this is making assumptions of what they pay and all this stuff. And so, but this is what I'm going to call the glass cannon. So, I'm sure anyone who's played video games or done much of anything understands the glass cannon thing. It's like a character who hits really hard, right? But they can't take a hit. It's if a cannon can shoot really hard, but if it's made of glass, eventually it's just going to shatter, and then it's absolutely useless. And any of these yield max stocks could do that to us. They could just absolutely crumble. I mean, any stock could do it. A single stock could do it. That's why a lot of people stay in the indexes. But my thought is, and it's held for a year so far, is that if I just focus on one of these glass cannons that pays really well and just hope for it to hold out, right? And just keep firing at something else that has a better chance of holding until I get to a certain level that I want in that stock or ETF. And then I have two glass cannons, right? But they're firing at such a fast rate, such a large cannonball that they can actually fund a few much more stable things for me in a way faster time than me just, dropping in $100 a week for 30 years. I don't have 30 years, or I don't want to use 30 years. Hopefully I do have 30 years, but I don't want to do this for another 30 years. So, this is the glass cannon test. I did it with Alti and I did it with Misty, right? Because Misty was paying better. Or I did it with Misty first because it was paying better. But Alti was so cheap that it turned out to be better for Alti to go. It came up to speed faster. And then I did a different test as more of a safe, more of a distributed, danger type thing, and did the entire dingbat deal in cycles. So I still did the 100,000, but I dropped $20,000 each, and then wrote them out to see where it came out. And you can see in 6 months we only made a 934. We only increased our monthly dividends by $934. I say only. That's not bad for 6 months. But our risk is distributed through 18 stocks, So, or 18 different funds and stocks mixed, whatever, and there's probably even better things. I just haven't found everything yet. So, that being said, I think what I'm going to do, and this is not advice, but this is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to do a mix. I'm going to use the glass cannon to fund at least, I'm probably going to fund four yield max funds, right, that pay monthly, one from A, B, C, D. I'm going to fund them as the glass cannons and get them up to a level that I want. Say, for argument's sake, I'll get Alti up to paying $1,000 a month. And then when it gets to that point, everything it pay every month when I get that $1,000, I'll put it into Misty until Misty's up paying $1,000 a month. And then, whatever the next week is, Tesla probably, and then Coney maybe, and this depended on Bitcoin. I mean, if Bitcoin drops back down to nothing out of nowhere because everybody sells out to try to cash out all these profits, then maybe hosed and all this Bitcoin stuff. But it is what it is. It'll come back, or it'll hold, or whatever, or I'll just reevaluate. Um, so that's the plan. I'm gonna use the four glass cannons, and then once I get those funded, maybe Nvidia and Tesla, probably. Once I get those funded, then that'll be $4,000 a month to start funding the next thing, you know, and then just snowball it from there into whatever. But so that's, if anybody wants to see anything else of this, let me know. That was the loops. So this was just a test yield max loop, right? But I used PLTY since it finally gave me an actual dividend. Um, and you can see it wasn't bad. I mean, it was $2,500 in a month dividend gain from rolling all four of them. So the Canon, can work. PLTY actually, I think it dropped its dividend in half already. Maybe that was PayPal. Anyway, you get the idea, right? So we're going to take some big funds that are risky as hell and shoot them at smaller funds that are more stable and more long term, and thus getting the thing done. And then anytime I have, let's see, let me show one more thing. On the full schedule, when I have a small amount of something that, say, I get a dividend from something in Robinhood that will not let you reinvest, or it won't let you buy partial dividends or something like that. I wind up with cash that's just sitting there, but it's not enough to actually roll into anything. I will either buy, well, not at this price. I'm not going to buy any Bitcoin or Ethereum. They're super high right now, but that's what I had been doing, is letting change trickle into Bitcoin, Ethereum, or PSEC, which is just a single stock that's been paying half decent for a while, and it's cheap, right? I can get a bunch of it. So just a thought on that. You can also just let it sit and accumulate. Up to you. I also like in between things when I just have, if I buy in a whole number and I've got another, $30 sitting around, then maybe I'll just throw in another share of something weekly and let that stuff just kind of trickle up and build up in the background as an afterthought. Anything else when you check in on the accounts? B's account is killing it because he had all that Dogecoin sitting in there, and the run up is absolutely crazy right now. So good on him. You can see I took the screenshot a little bit ago. This is pretty close, but I think it's at 91.9 when I started this recording. But this, if I remember right, this was like at $60 when we started this account. So that's nice. We now have 27 shares of YMAG. And it paid $5.62 last week. It'll pay, I don't know, we have 27 shares times 0.2 something. I don't know. We'll make a little more this week, and it's going to keep rolling. And then K's account. The Coney is probably up by now. And the Misty is showing -1%, but that's not accurate. That's probably for the day, right? Not since we bought it. So we're up $20, and we'll be getting paid on both of these this week, and then next week we'll get paid on Misty, and then we'll make a purchase the following week. I have decided I am going to delay these purchases until after dividends, though. So we'll get paid this Friday on Coney and Fit. We'll get paid next Friday on Misty, and then the following Wednesday we'll get the distribution announcement. But we're not going to buy before ex-dividend day because I want to let it pay out the distribution and the price drop to see if we can get just hedge out just a little more actual stock off of it for cheaper. Which means we won't get paid that dividend that Friday, so we won't be able to buy the next week. And I'm kind of dragging it out, but I do want to try to get as much for the dollar as possible on those. So that's what it is. I've already got it, already messed it up. So I can't think of anything else. Go Bitcoin. If you if you have nerves of steel and can sit and watch this thing, it might be worth like trying to day trade this thing while it's going all crazy. But I think it's still got a little more room to go up. I feel like these people are going to wind up trying to push it to 100K in the next couple of days, and then if it hits 100, I would bet there would be a big sell off at that point. It's going to drop back down somewhere in the 60 range probably. But who the hell knows? Everything's a guess. All right. Love you guys. Talk to you next week.